We have rights that are independent of particular laws. They are not rights that are granted by this legislature. They are inalienable. They don't get suspended in times of emergency. Rights being inalienable exist at all times. Those are the words of the Premier, spoken here in this legislature just about 1 year ago. Yet here with Bill 9, we have her and her government putting forward legislation that unquestionably undermines the very principles she once claimed to hold. Because in introducing this bill, we heard this government repeatedly say they want to have, quote, the last word on rights in Alberta, end quote. That through Bill 9, they, as the government of Alberta, are declaring that they will decide which of the rights outlined in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms Albertans will be allowed to have. A complete reversal, an utter betrayal of what the Premier once said she believes in, that rights are inalienable, that is, existing outside the power of government to determine or define. This government, they're trying to portray Bill 9 as an act of strength. They're trying to portray themselves as bold leaders that are standing their ground. Their decision, Mr. Speaker, is not that. Their decision to invoke the notwithstanding clause to trample the rights of Albertans is an act of utter cowardice. It's an admission that they fundamentally believe their legislation would not be able to withstand a court challenge. Now, Mr. Speaker, today in question period, the Premier accused the Leader of the Opposition of styling himself as judge, jury, and executioner. But the fact is that's precisely what she and her government are choosing to do with Bill 9. Circumventing the place of the courts and claiming their authority for themselves. Because they know no judge is going to rule in their favor. Indeed, not only styling themselves as judge and jury, but surrogate parent, family doctor, endocrinologist, mental health professionals. This government thinks they stand above all of them. They know better than all of them. This is a government that doesn't like being challenged, Mr. Speaker. No. Thing is, they've proven themselves to be the most interventionist, most authoritarian government in our province's history. Dedicated micromanagers who are dedicated to try to control everything. We've got a growing record of political interference with what are supposed to be independent public bodies. In this government's view, they're the experts on everything, the only rightful arbiters of power who should never be questioned. They consider themselves above any system of accountability or transparency. Ideology trumps facts and expertise. Ideology trumps reality. Their decision to take the unprecedented measure of invoking the notwithstanding clause to trample on Albertans' rights, to essentially say, your rights don't count because we said so. And Bill 9 constitutes the second, third, and fourth times they're doing so in the space of just 4 weeks. Of course, as we all know, their first target was Alberta teachers. This Premier who declared herself a champion of free speech, well, she used the notwithstanding clause in legislation to strip that right from Alberta teachers and to impose a contract, not fair arbitration by a neutral third party. No, that'd be too much like a court opinion, Mr. Speaker. This is a government that thinks they're above any check and balance, beyond the reach of anyone who might tell them no, so they use the notwithstanding clause against teachers and strip their rights. And now with Bill 9, they're doing it again to target a vulnerable community who want nothing other than to be able to live as their true, authentic selves. It's unconscionable and it's despicable. And the fact is, we don't know who will be next. I mean, a government this arrogant, this entitled, this obsessed with power, with so little regard for anyone who disagrees with them, well, they're likely to target pretty much anyone. Any marginalized or minority group. Will they invoke it against the disability community to prevent any challenge of their changes to age? Against racialized Albertans in their pursuit of denying newcomers any access to services? To override or restrict access to abortion or other reproductive care, as we've heard government members advocate for? We don't know. Because again, a government that's willing to do this to vulnerable youth with so little consideration for the potential harm on the basis of conspiracy in the pursuit of political power and gain, well, Mr. Speaker, they're capable of almost anything. But you know, Mr. Speaker, I do have hope. Since this government took their first step down this road last month, you know what? I've seen Albertans sit up, take notice, and start to engage in a way I have not seen in a very long time. And you know what? This premier, this government, they may have finally gone too far, stepped over the line, inspired a movement, awoken a sleeping giant that will be the beginning of their end. Because Albertans know, Mr. Speaker, that this isn't right. Albertans know this is not how you treat your neighbors. This is not Alberta values, Mr. Speaker. This is not who the vast majority of Albertans are. This government has lost the plot. They have lost their moral compass. And Albertans aren't going to tolerate it. Because Albertans know better is possible. And they're waking up. And they're starting to demand it.